Hi, hello, hi, my name's Jack, but people call me Jack. For those unaware, Bob's Burgers is a show about a humble family working at a burger restaurant. While it may sound like the average animated dysfunctional family show, it's actually very different at its core, because this is a very wholesome and welcoming show. It just gives you a nice feeling when watching it, or it does for me at least most of the time. Before getting into the contents of the movie itself, I feel it important to give a bit of my history with the show, and partially explain why this movie would get to rekindle my passion for this cartoon family. I started watching the show around when season 4 was airing. I wasn't the biggest fan of the first season, but it was short and I stuck with it because I saw the potential. Plus, I'm usually not a big fan of first seasons of shows anyway. I even did a video about that years ago. Season 2 was a step up, and by season 3, I was a big fan of this show. Season 4 I was hooked, and by season 5 it would become one of my favourite shows on TV. So, what changed? Well, not much. Season 5, 6 and 7 are probably my favourite seasons of the show, and while the show is still great, I do not think it will reach those overall season peaks again for me. The show knew what it was by around season 3, and so getting to seasons 10, 11, 12, it doesn't burn me out on the content, it just makes me less desperate for more, since I have hundreds of episodes worth of content I can rewatch at any time. Human nature makes it so people become almost selfish in the sense that when you have constant access to something, you lose your want to see it as much until it's gone. I thought for a long time about why the movie was able to rekindle my love, and all of this is important to this kinda not really review video thing. When a movie based on the show was announced, I was nervous. Something that makes the show stand out against shows with a similar premise, like The Simpsons or Family Guy, is how grounded the stories are in Bob's Burgers. So having a movie announced kinda scared me, because it runs the risk of either feeling too big in scale to fit the nature of the show, or too mundane to feel like a movie. It's a very thin line, and I think they nailed it. The marketing for this movie was unfortunate. Maybe it's just because I'm from the UK and the show seemingly isn't very popular over here, but I saw basically nothing advertising this movie. All I saw would be the accounts of the people behind the show tweeting about the movie, and a little cutout stand in the cinema when I was already there to go see the movie. When it came to sitting down and watching this movie, wow. I left completely satisfied, and by the next day I wanted to watch it again, which isn't something that happens with me in the cinema because I hate sitting for long periods of time. Cinemas should have beds. The first thing that I noticed about the movie that I'm sure was clear to most people was the animation quality. Bob's Burgers is already one of the most well-animated shows on TV, I think at least. You can not like the style if you want, it's not for everyone, I love it, but the animation itself in this movie is always really good. The movie took the animation to another level, and it instantly made it stand out as higher budget and for the big screen. I know there's that whole meme that a cartoon show getting a movie just adds shadows, and while this does do that, the lighting, camera angles, fluidity of motions, it's all improved. Movements have such an improvement in terms of physics too. Actions actually feel like they have weight behind them.
And I want for him to kiss me and then walk away so I can see what's shaking in the backside of his pants. Oop.
It's animated beautifully, composited wonderfully all the way through, and it feels like the style from the show has been tweaked to perfection in this movie. The segments with the songs especially are so fluid and pleasant on the eyes that I could and likely will rewatch them thousands of times over the course of years from now. The plot of the movie is really interesting to me because the trailers didn't really show it. This is the point in the video where you should click away if you haven't seen the movie because it's spoiler time in 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so the whole hole stuff was shown in the trailers, but the dead guy in the hole was not. A murder mystery is not what I was expecting, and while it was obvious to me straight away who the killer was, the movie was much more about the journey than the destination, and it was a freaking fun journey. The movie follows the kids going from place to place so Louise can prove she isn't a baby and solve the murder. Early in the movie she has a dead guy's teeth in her mouth and doesn't cry. Yeah, she's pretty badass to me at that point already. Meanwhile, Bob and Linda, and Teddy, take Bob's Burgers mobile since the restaurant isn't easily accessible for people. Wait, what connects both sides of the story? Financial ruin. The Belchers owe the bank money and don't have long to pay up. Bob and Linda therefore go for revenue in a different way. The kids go for getting fish odor acquitted, which could help save the restaurant. The songs in this movie are so good. There's only a few. This isn't a full-on musical with a song in every scene, but the songs that are here are so good. Sunny Side Up Summer is full of that Bob's Burgers charm, full of hope, optimism, and even little deeper character moments. It sets up the movie really well, telling us the objectives of each of the family members, and moves the story quickly by. Lucky Ducks reminds me heavily of I Got a Dream from Tangled, which is definitely a good thing. Criminals singing and it being a bit rough but full of personality and insanely catchy. The choreography in this scene is also ridiculously good. Animated shows and movies don't usually go traditionally theatrical with a musical number, but this went for it and it was incredible. Gene gets a little song at the end with his band. It's not as catchy or anything, but I'm glad it was included because it wrapped up his story arc of the movie, and it's just very Gene. There's the credits song too, which kinda connects to the Gene song. It's really catchy and feels like the kind of ending you'd get from an episode of the show, making the experience feel complete. For those of you that watch the movie, you probably know there's another song, so let's talk about the villain a bit first then. I understand how some people might not have seen the villain coming. I think the movie was clever with how it handled all three fish odors. Mr. Fish Odor is shady and they could easily do a twist that it was him all along, and the mystery was pointless. Felix has tried killing Bob and his brother before with the help of Fanny, who is back in this movie, so I could understand guessing him. Then there's Grover, a character who only appeared once in the show, and got more screen time here than ever. Yeah, it was clear to me it was him. While the other two would work to be big reveals, with the show still airing, I didn't think there was any way they would want to do a big continuity shift for the show, when a lot of the show's viewers might not even see the movie. Plus, it would make any of the previous stuff with Felix or Mr. Fish Odor even darker than they already sometimes get. And I don't think the creators and team behind the show would want that tonal shift for this otherwise mostly wholesome series. As part of the big reveal, Grover gets a song, and it is one of the darkest moments in the franchise. We get an explanation for the murder, his plot to now murder his family and the Belcher family, and how he plans to cover it up. Yet it's still funny somehow. And that's because of how awkward his singing is at first.
Look, I'm not that evil, no, I'm not a bad person, so I killed one Connie, well, it's just 'cause I'm determined.
Are you gonna tell him he's hard to understand? He can harpoon you. Yeah, I didn't think so. The song may change tone a bunch of times throughout, but that almost adds to the intensity. He's an emotionally unpredictable villain, and I'd argue one of the darkest parts about his character is he isn't doing this to take over the world like some big supervillain. He killed a guy and is planning to kill a bunch of others just because he wants to take over the wharf and start his own business there. Before I come to a summary about how all of this rekindled my love and passion, I think it's important to talk about my favourite scene in the movie. The Belchers get buried alive. No falling and accidentally burying themselves. Nope. An established murderer set his plan in place to kill his own family and then buries the Belcher family alive. The kids are there too. A big part of why I think, despite really liking the show, I stopped being as passionate as I used to be, is because it knows what it wants out of its stories, and it leaves me without any surprises really. I know basically everything that's going to happen before it happens. While the murderer didn't surprise me, the things that did were they'd actually have someone as cold as Grover. Sure, they had Helen, but her whole thing is keeping her case open-ended, even though she definitely killed her husband. I never thought they'd bury the Belchers alive. When they were buried, did I think they'd die? Hell no. But the fact it was willing to get to this point of darkness was the surprise I think I needed from the franchise. It was just unexpected for me. We also get a lovely backstory to the ears Louise wears, where she misremembered the origin of them because she was so young. Even getting to see Bob's mum for the first time. Such a beautiful scene. All while being in the highest pressure situation they've ever been in. The scene is amazing. And once they get out of the buried alive situation, Teddy helps get them out of the car, making his mobile Bob's Burgers restaurant that was otherwise in the seemingly most mundane storyline help the family in one of the most tense situations. Something I found interesting about this movie, and something the smoothly animated credits dancing stuff made me notice even more, was how little and few side characters were in this movie. The show has so many side characters at this point, but the movie was very careful and restrictive with who got lines. At first I was thinking this was a downside, but it's really not for me. Glued Where's My Bob happened to fit in all the characters in a perfect way to celebrate the show.
I'll be doing interviews and feeling just fine.
The movie, however, focuses on the family, Bob and Louise especially, and as a result it makes them feel even more developed, and any payoffs with those characters feel better, as we got a lot longer with them. It didn't feel the need to throw in cameos from every random character. A lot do appear in this movie, but they appear in a natural way. And while I would get people being disappointed by this, as the side characters are a huge part of the show, I respect the decision to make it feel more focused on the core family and the story they were telling. I love this movie. It's a phenomenal movie to accompany the show, and has made me start rewatching some of my favourite moments and episodes from the show. It's also made me listen to the songs and just mention the show a lot more to the people around me. Anyway, that's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing, liking, commenting. It all helps out the channel a lot. And until next time, bye I guess.